Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBus TV Mixing and Mastering Tutorials on YouTube. I'm your host David and we are back with tutorials. After the well-received vlogs, which we are keep going, after the studio tour, we are back with some mixing tricks. Let's cut to the chase, and today I will show you and try to break down in one or two videos one of the mixes that I linked a few days ago and you guys asked about it. The mix is by the band FiveToTen, and the song is called The Right Thing. And this was a very interesting mix, a very interesting album. It's a three-piece band, so it's just drums, piano, and vocals. Very talented artists, all three of them. But she has such a beautiful voice, very different dynamic range from verse to chorus. So it was interesting to try to find a way to control her vocal while still keeping it natural. And the other two instruments, being drums and piano, had to fill the space all by themselves. So there was a lot of space for me to play with sounds and effects. I will try to be as detailed as I can breaking down this mix, but I will not go into each and every plugin and each and everything. I want to give you a big picture more than in details, EQ, frequency, and how many dBs. Disclaimer before we start, I'm missing all my hardware here, and there was a lot of hardware in this mix going on. My two bus with the Dione Neves, my custom mastering EQ, distressors, drummer on the drum. There was so much hardware. And I don't have it, so I'm gonna play you the mix, but it's gonna sound a lot different than the final product. If you want to listen to the final product, the video is out. I'll link it in the info box down below. But just keep in mind that in the tutorial, the mix is gonna sound a lot different. But let's take a look at what tracks we have. We have the green tracks that are all drums. Kick in, kick out, snare top and bottom, hi-hats, overhead, mono room, stereo room, and two rack toms and a floor tom. These are the only sounds that I replaced. I used my samples for these few hits on the toms, and the drum is routed this way. Each channel goes to either an aux or the drum bus. The toms are summed together in our tom sum aux track. The kick sum is another aux track, and kick in and kick out go there. The snare sum has snare top and snare bottom going there. Then we have two reverbs for the snare. All the summing channel, tom, kick, and snare go to the drum bus, and all the other additional channels like overhead, mono, and stereo room go directly to the drum bus. The two snare verbs go to the FX output. Then we have a piano. Piano is one track stereo. That was what I was given. And here there's an interesting trick that I did to beef this piano up that we'll see in a minute. Then we have a drop vocal track, which is where I cut pieces on the vocals. This is something I do often in my mixes. I have a custom chain of effects, and instead of sending the vocals or any other element to this track, this is an audio track. And I just cut pieces, let me show you, and just put them there. So I can see them, I can see the throws. I use these for throws, for special effects, radio vocals and stuff like that. So I can see the bits and pieces. And it's just faster for me. No other reason that using an audio track with a chain of effects than using a send. I don't have to manage the send volumes and mute and unmute. I just cut and paste and I can see that. Then we have two lead vocal tracks, the red ones. Then we have our output buses, the music, which in this case is fed only by the piano, the lead vocal with all the sends to the effects, these black aux tracks here. Then there's effects, delay, a verse sum, because this was a template that I was using for the whole album. So I had sometimes the verse that was split in two tracks, and instead of doubling the plugin use, I would just send it to this aux verse sum track and then process it. Then lead sum, same thing for the lead vocals for the hooks. Sometimes I had two. Then there's double radio vocal, which I didn't use, and then I have a double. So this is another performance. Is cut all in one take, as you can see. And dynamics, you can already tell, are so wild, especially from verse to chorus. We'll take a look at that. Then we have all the blue tracks, which are all the effects. and some I used, some I didn't. We're gonna take a look at them. Slap stereo, some different reverbs, different delays, a lot of throws. And there we have 2 tracks of background vocals, which are bussed to our BVs, aux output. Then we have my Crush distro for the drum. This is a mono Crush distortion / compression that I use for drums very often. I don't have my distressor here, so I used a CLA 76 to try to emulate the same effect. Drum output, our drum bus. Then we have a drum kit reverb, a piano hall, which is the piano reverb, double lead output because I route all my doubles, the second takes, to their own bus. And then the last use is the FX output, which is where all the reverbs and delays are routed. Finally, my mix bus. As you can see, I'm missing all my hardware, but yeah, let's take a listen to the mix, actually the final version mastered, and then we'll break down the mix. Okay, that was the mix, and if you want to hear more, there's a link to the video in the info box down below. Let's mute this and let's start to break down the mix. As I said, I don't want to go into every single plugin and every single knob twist, but just give you the most important thing and an overall picture. But every single channel has SSL G channel on, if anything, just for the gain staging. This one, for example, has a -6 dB input and just a little bit of EQ at the top. This was kick in. But let's solo the kick in and kick out and take a look at the kick sum channel, which has some processing on. So let's bypass all of these. This is the kick without anything on. And now the kick with the SSL. So as you can see, the SSL channel does the first compression, then filtering, and the bulk of the EQ, really, with this boost at the bottom, with the low frequency divided in 3, one of my favorite, you know, if you follow the channel, and up top. Let's hear again with and without. Then we have Pro Q, and here I'm cutting that frequency around 500. This way, the kick gets a lot deeper. A little bit of top. And most importantly, we cut that cardboardy sound. Then I had a transient designer that I don't have here, just to give it a little more attack. It's just as simple as it gets. Then something I use very often on kick, lo-fi, just 0.1 click of distortion, and then more EQ, because after the lo-fi, you know, some frequency come out. In this case, it was this build up around 95, and I wanted a little bit of bottom end, so a little bit of boost of a 60 and a more top. As you can see, this EQ comes after all the other processing, means that while working on the mix, the kick needed to be a little more something, in this case top and bottom, and removing some frequency here, probably clashing with the piano. But this is the reason why you see an EQ first and then some processing, then an EQ after that, because the mix evolves, so you need to change things. Lastly, simple L1 limiter, just to catch sporadic hits. It's not doing pretty much anything, just safety net. So let's hear the kick with everything bypassed. Now everything on. Okay, now let's hear the snare. We have top and bottom. Let's solo them. I have a gate on the bottom. There was a lot of snare sound. I want it a little bit tighter. So we have a snare sum channel where both of them go, and this is how it sounds without anything on. This is with all on. Little brighter, a little less boomy. We don't have much on the SSL. We have a notch on the Pro Q2. Was this ring that I had to remove. More gating, a little bit of expander. The brightness is given by the API 550. And then the compressor. Now I had a hardware RNC compressor on the snare for the snap, and it rounded the sound a lot more than the R compressor, but this is what I have now, so we have to make it work. So the snare sounds a little bit different. And then the K clip, just to saturate the snare a bit and catch occasional hits. Final EQ, just to shape it a little bit and give it a little more bite, around 1K. Overheads don't have much going on. Just regular EQ. I'm cutting. You can see the settings on the SSL. A little bit of compression with the 2500 EQ. And the Pultec, just for the top end. Mono room, where we cut this 18 dB here at the, again, cardboardy sound range. More EQ to cut the top end, and smashed with the CLA 76 in all bottom mode. This is how it sounds without anything. And this is the mono room that goes to the drum bus. Stereo room, it was wide and big sounding already. There's some compression and filtering pretty much only with the SSL. And the Pro Q, you can see again this cut around 300 this time, which is different from what we saw before with the snare and other tracks around 500. So this range needs to be tamed without the plugins. Of course, there's a lot of gain staging happening with the SSL. And our drum together sounds like this. Then we have a reverb for the snare, just deverb. You can see the settings, and is EQ'd on the way in with a low pass filter and some gating. This would be the sound without the SSL. So just to contain it a bit, and a little bit of EQ. We have another reverb, which is pretty much the same thing. I wanna quickly take a look at the drum bus. Now I'm missing my drummer 1978 here, so the whole drum sounds different, but you know, stay with me. The SSL is doing the filtering, as you can see. Then we have the Revival from Steven Slate. I love this plugin. I love it. I love it on drums. I love it on vocals. It's very nice. Without it, the bottom end especially gets so much richer. Very, very nice plugin. And then just this cut 10 dB notch at 40 was just too much low end in there. The other thing on the drum would be the Crush distro, my distressor in mono, which I don't have here, so I use this CLA 76 to try to get the same effect. Let me try with and without. It just adds a little bit of muscle. The drum bus then goes to our drum kit verb. EQ'd on the way in. Without. And EQ'd on the way out. Just filtering. The way in is cutting the lows, the way out is cutting the highs. And I use the impulse from the Lexicon 300 Room for this reverb. And that's it for the drums.